Hello and welcome back. This is MC1 Gamer bringing you another battle report for Age of Sigmar. This is going to be another edition of Dad versus Son. And before I get into that, just wanted to let everybody know, not only do I have a Twitter account, so check me out on Twitter, but I'm also involved in a group called the Gamer Grunts, where we are going around to various different venues and promoting Age of Sigmar as well as various other games with events. So check us out at Gamer Grunts. And if you're looking to be a Patreon supporter, check me out, MC1 Gamer on Patreon, if you want to contribute to the channel in any way. Getting to the actual battle report. So we're going to pit Ethan's Ogres against my Dwarves. Now I have a slow but building dwarf force. A lot of it I'm just going to wait until the new Steamhead version of the Dwarves come out. I'm loving the Fire Slayers, but I haven't picked those up yet. And in trying to introduce Ethan further into the game and teach him more stuff about it, I'm looking to create a scenario that he can understand so that his mentality isn't just about running across the field and killing, and it's about achieving objectives or defending for objectives. So that he can get more in tune with how events or tournaments or just certain scenarios in the various resource books, how those work, because he's expressed of interest in doing this. So I created a kind of a modification of Breakthrough, where there's a small fledgling group of dwarves are going to defend this pass. They're outmatched. The power level that you're going to see here is going to be certainly skewed in favor of the ogres, but there's certainly some strength on the dwarf side. So it's certainly a winnable game by either side. The way it's going to work is that the ogres have to get at least 3 of their units through these 2 structures, which is considered to be the pass, and of course the dwarves are defending it. Otherwise, if anything that gets through, if it's not 3 of his 6 units, he'll get additional victory points. And I think this is a good introduction to show Ethan how this works. And beyond that, I'm also teaching him how to use wizards, how to use the spellcasting capabilities. And there's some new units that he hasn't played very much with that he's going to get a chance to use as well. So, and he's really picking this up pretty quickly. So if you're a dad or a mom out there and you have a child that you're interested in, tabletop wargaming, and your kid, these are great ways. The best way to do it, of course, is to do it in little steps. So here's Ethan. He's the junior general, and he's really picking this stuff up. He's also rocking his Star Wars pajamas, which I'm sure this will one day be one of those blackmail photos that he'll hate. In any case, he was pretty jazzed about this game, and he's trying out his Mornfang Cavalry. This first time he's using the Butcher. Got that in a trade, and he's going to learn all about how spellcasting, unbinding, all that stuff. He's got a Giant, a Stonehorn, and Thunder Tusk, so a lot of wounds on the table already, which is not all even that's going to comprise his force. I have, as a defense, I have a Gyro Bomber. There's a Rune Lord, so there will be some, counters potentially to his spell casting, which will be, Arcane Bolt, Mystic Shield, and the Maw. I have an Engineer who's situated such that he can enhance both the Cannon and the Grudge Thrower teams. I also have in the center some Quarrelers, and I had a proxy a few because I don't have all of them even built. And I also have a Dwarf Lord. Now, this Dwarf Lord is not held up by guys in a shield. This is like an outpost. This is like a forward outpost for the Dwarves, protecting the first level line of defense in this mountain pass. So I'm going to try and do a series of narrative games, as I've always touted, to show, Ethan, not only how the game works, but also this is an expression for any of you watching, that balanced games are not necessary. You can create imbalanced games and have great competitive, fun games. You do not need to do a tournament steamroller type thing where you're trying to figure out some numerical, value on everything with points and try to make everything start off equal, because that's not always how these things work. There's a real power to having an imbalance in the game, and there are plenty of ways, even ways that you can enact with your own custom scenarios, that will have tripwires to make the game more interesting and more competitive. And this game is only one of many, which is the way Age of Sigmar should be played. They're not individual games only looked at in of themselves. So moving past that, and sorry to be on the soapbox, I have also a flame cannon. So there's potential here. Of course, as you can see, even though wounds are probably not all that off, the power level is very much different between these two armies. So I can dish out a lot from range, but you know, how much am I going to be able to kill before he gets up in, you know, right up in front and power, you know, burst through? So here's the battlefield as it stands, and there's more to this, but you know, we wanted to put some structures, some things that could protect with cover as well as block line of fire. So there are, you know, it's definitely some diversity to a much smaller table. This is probably about a 3x3 equivalent that we're playing. And then the view from the other side, from the Junior General Ethan, so we can see what's going on from his standpoint. And here are some of the added elements into the game. So on the dwarf side, there's a unit of miners. So they're going to be, and I love the miners, by the way. They're going to be tunneling from underground, and which means that they can appear anywhere in the battlefield in the movement phase. And it takes up their movement. They can still charge, they can still shoot, but that's their movement. But they have to be no closer than 9 inches from any enemies, which is a great mechanic. When I started collecting the Dwarven army for this battle report and for my army in general, the idea was I wanted to have some diversity in the units. I want to have more than just the gun line stuff, or even just the troops that stall the iron breakers or the hammers. These heavily armored and powerful units that don't move very far. I wanted to have a very fast moving army with gyrocopters and these miners, and also with Bugman and his rangers, because they can also scout ahead to try and break the mold a little bit of what you can do with dwarves. Still, of course, having some things that shoot, but not being just the typical dwarven gun line. And there's a lot you can do in Age of Sigmar with dwarves, and that's why I like them so much. So these miners are going to basically be my tripwire. They're going to be my holding action to try and slow him down. More like sacrificial lambs, but to try and slow him down to see if I can delay him long enough such that I can actually get enough shooting done to wither him down to the point where if he does get up in front of me, a fight will actually be a little bit fair. And then he also has another reinforcement of his own. So this is Biff the Giant. Biff was a little late getting to the fight because he picked up, as you can see, one of the free peoples that tribes apparently was running around as the ogres were moving in on the dwarven defensive line, and he decided to want a snack. So he's a little weighed down by gobbling up some of these roaming free peoples, and he's still got one in his hand. But I think he's probably got some room in his sack if he wants to grab some more along the way. In any case, he is going to come in on turn 2. He'll have his full movement on turn 2, but he's going to be delayed. So even though some things might get shot up a little bit, Ethan will have the opportunity to bring in some additional forces for successive turns. So, and then his general is going to be his butcher. This is the first time he's using it. And then, of course, my general would be my dwarf lord. And we have this was filmed in front of a live audience. This is Shadow. He is the cat judge who knows all. He actually decided to sit up on the chair here that we moved out just to watch the game, and he just sat there the whole time just enamored. I guess it was the first time actually seeing the game with the new mat and with in our dining room area. So I just wanted to share that in case any of you are cat lovers. If you're not, well, too bad. There's Shadow. Turn 1 goes to the dwarves. So there's a lot of things that I can do, but there's a bunch of things that I'm not going to be able to do because obviously he's very far away. All I can really do is shoot. And a nice little piece of my thumb in the upper left-hand corner. Apologies for that. So in the hero phase, my Rune Lord decides he's going to go and enhance the Quarrelers with an Ancestral Shield. So what that's going to do is it's going to give him the ability. It's kind of like a 6 ward save. So if I roll a 6 on any wounds, mortal or otherwise, then that wound is ignored, which is nice because I kind of feel that he's probably going to take an opportunity to try and pummel these guys and thin out the shooting potential this unit has. If you're not aware of how this works, a 20 or more strong unit of Quarrelers can actually shoot twice, which is something I have to think about 25 or 26 of these guys. So if I take too many wounds, that's going to go away, and I definitely want to take advantage of that and have these guys survive. With movement, so I move. I have one gyro bomber, and I love it because it's got a little shooting capability, but it also can, if it flies over a unit, it can drop bombs, which means it can actually dish out mortal wounds. It's not a lot, but it does add up, and it's a nice little extra perk. Plus, you know, it's a helicopter. This is the Dwarven Air Force. So I move him up a little bit just to try and get in range so I can, you know, get some shots off on one of his units somewhere in the first turn. And then I pop the miners. Now I have this crater thing that I put in there. It is not, there's nothing, this doesn't dictate anything in terms of terrain effects in the game. It's just, you know, really cool to have this crater pop up where these miners apparently broke through the ground. So I put it in there. This is where these guys are coming up from, and that's where I measured from the edge of where the miners actually are. So this is a good 9 inches from the tusk of the Thunder Tusk. Yes, we do measure model to model. It does work. You can measure base to base if you want, but guys, model works just fine. Anyway, so this is just a vantage point from the miners, and you can see that there's a bunch of other objects here. I'm hoping to get these miners in front, give Ethan a bit of a challenge, so he has to figure out how to overcome this. Delay these guys so I can shoot other stuff up, so we can see that it's not just a cakewalk. He's not just going to walk through the center of these in this game. He's got to actually think and adapt when different units are put in front of some of his troops, so that to try and foil some of his plans. So we go to shooting phase. The gyro bomber opens up on the Mournfang and dishes out 3 wounds. Not enough to kill one. I think they got 6 wounds each, but still, first blood goes to the dwarves. Then a couple shots are fired off by the grudge thrower, and they get 2 shots because the engineer is right there. I get 1 shot on this on the Stonehorn. The main reason for going after the Stonehorn is that the Thunder Tusk. The main reason for going after the Thunder Tusk first, not the Stonehorn. The Stonehorn is really resilient. Every wound that it takes, for every 2, it's only going to take 1. Obviously, that rounds up. So if you dish out 5, it's going to be 3. Even so, that 12 wounds on the Stonehorn is really stretches out. And although I want to put some wounds on that thing and get it a little weaker, the Thunder Tusk has this ice breath that right off the bat, unwounded, is 6 mortal wounds. And that thing could start just removing not only lots of guys with the quarrelers, but it could destroy an entire war machine basically with 1 shot. And there's not much I can do. We could kill off, you know, the Dwarven Lord, 1 shot, Rune Lord, 1 shot. Got to reduce this. And if you can get down to 3 wounds, which I did, then immediately that 6 mortal wounds goes down to die 6. So you know, obviously success. I think I missed with the second one, so I open up with the cannon. And the cannon goes ahead again, and I want to target this this Thunder Tusk, and I roll a 1. I roll a 1 for wounding. Yes, the dad versus son curse, where the son is just gets all the benefits of the rolls. It is continuing. So I roll a charge. I need 9 to get this charge off. I get a 9. So these miners are going to get in there right off the bat. It's probably better this way. I was hoping to get the charge because I didn't want them to charge me, because then they would be wiped out turn 1. So I get in there. Not everybody's right up there, but I'll get a fold in, pile in later. But we get to combat, and yeah, I pile in. I get a bunch of guys on this this Thunder Tusk, and I'm hoping to do some damage, and I do. So I've got 6 wounds on this thing now, which is awesome. That's halfway down to dead. There's a good chance that if these miners can survive, I might be able to finish off one of his biggest models. So he fights back, and he doesn't do that great. I mean, between my saves and some of his, you know, he had some failed hits, some misses rather. I only lost 2 guys. That's not so bad. Things might actually be looking up here. So we go to turn 1 for the Ogres, and you know, I was coaching him on how this works. He put his inspiring presence on the Mournfang, because they're the only unit that has more than 1 model in the unit, so that's the only thing that made sense. Then he throws a Mystic Shield on them, which was pretty smart, because that gives them, you know, an extra +1 to their saves. And again, he's down 3 wounds out of 6 for one of these models, and there's a pretty good chance I'm going to target it since I've already done it once before. Then he runs up with his giant, which is, again, great. I wish giants could throw rocks. I really do. I wish that they had the mechanic for that, because I think it would be very fluffy, very appropriate. Or, you know, maybe throw an object, you know, a little piece of terrain like that column that's there, or something like that. Tree, you know, trees. You remove a tree, but, you know, he throws it. Whatever. Anything like that would be awesome. But since they don't have it, well, the only thing to do is to run them up as quickly as you can. So he runs it. He's maybe a little more than a third way through the across the board. Then he decides to, he had the option. He could have taken this Stonehorn and ignored the miners. I think it actually has a rule that it has to charge if it can. But he, even so, wanted to take out these miners. He wanted to finish them off, wipe them out, and then move down the field afterwards. He had to stop 3 inches away, so that's 3 inches from the tusk. And then he runs up. I don't know if he ran. I think he moved up his Butcher, puts them just a little bit over on the edge of the terrain piece, so he gets the +1 cover. Yes, that's how it works. You don't have to be fully inside the terrain piece. You just have to be touching it. But every model in the unit has to be touching it. So if you're one model on the edge of a terrain piece, that's easy enough. In any case, he then moves up his Mournfang. Nice long charge here. Not the easiest. It's probably about 10 inches, maybe 9. But either way, it's good enough long distance that I feel pretty confident. But he moved it up as far as he could so that he can get into a chance to do so. And he failed. So it was a 10-inch charge. And he rolled, I think he rolled like a 7 or something like that. Either way, he failed. So I'm pretty happy about that. And combat. Again, the Thundertusk, the Thundertusk has been diminished a little bit. He's down, considerable amount of wounds, and now he starts plucking off some of my miners, but not as many as I had thought. So I attack back. I'm only able to get 1 wound through, but I'm okay with that. Look, I've dished out 7 wounds now on this Thundertusk. If luck should have it, I should be able to kill this thing if the miners can survive. Maybe I can get another shot off with one of my artillery pieces. But then he moves in with his Stonehorn, and that's going to be a lot of bad news because Stonehorns dish out some damage when they attack with like some world damage. They got plenty of attacks. They're just beasts in combat. They're really brutal. And he just dishes out a whole bunch of damage. You could see a whole lot of wounds. I think about 9 or 10 miners already down, bit the dust. And I was already weakened from last turn. So yeah, it's pretty bad. We get to Battle Shock and the rest of them run away, which is totally understandable because if I was facing these 2 monstrosities and I lost more than half of my troop, I think I'd run back into the hole and go back underground too. So that's where the miners went. Miners are gone, but they did do their job. If you've noticed, these guys are pretty much where they started from. And they are 7 wounds on that Thundertusk. I've only delayed them 1 turn. I was hoping to get 2. But, it's not a bad trade-off. About 20 wounds in miners for 7 wounds on the Thundertusk. Could have been better, could be worse, but they're still sitting practically on his board edge. Turn 2 goes to the Dwarves. I rolled high enough, and I go first. So I put the Ancestral Grudge down onto the Quarrelers. They are now +1 to wound. I know things are going to start getting close enough to shoot. And we use the Forge Fire ability to get an additional rend. So these are going to be some pretty capable archers now. Movement. I move the gyrocopter is up off to the right. Try and get a little further away from the Mournfang. Give me an opportunity to do some shooting. So I do some shooting. I actually move up the Quarrelers, so I'm in range for all of them to get this giant. Now, I didn't have any other targets. This is the only target that I have right now because a lot of his stuff is still further back down the field. So I'm going to unload everything I can on this this giant. And these guys are shooting twice because they're over 20 strong. They're +1 to rend. They're +1 to wound. This is going to be one unfortunate giant, and sure enough, with all the shots, there's just no chance. Giant goes down. Then I unload with my cannon. I am looking to target his Stonehorn because I can't see his Thundertusk, amazingly enough. Between the obstacles with the terrain and with the the intervening terrain and the body size of this Stonehorn, I couldn't see anything appropriately enough to shoot, so I just shot at the Stonehorn. And I got to try to drop the Stonehorn down a little bit because he's going to move a little slower. He's going to get hurt a little more, and he's going to be a little weaker. So I might as well dish some damage. And I have other things I can shoot at the Thundertusk, which I wanted to do with the 2 shots from the Grudge Thrower, 2 rocks, but you're not going to get very far if you roll a 2 and a 1 when you need a 3+ to hit. That was awful. I did forget, however, that I have the ability to reroll hits and wounds. Doesn't matter, but it could have. This really could have mattered. But of course, just like I'm showing Ethan and trying to teach him how to play his own army, you need to know your own army. You better know your rules when you throw your army down on the table, because if you don't, nobody's going to try and correct you or fill you in when you have any issues. and I made a mistake there, of course. So Grudge Thrower didn't do much. I go and I try to shoot with the Gyro Bomber on his Butcher, so he's out there. He's in cover, but that's fine. I want to see if I can thin him out. I only was able to do 1 wound, though, because he was able to make his saving throws, and I didn't hit with everything. So we go to turn 2, bottom of 2 for the Ogres. And his reinforcements come in. So Biff, the giant, he's nice and full and weighed down by all these free peoples that he's been eating, but now he's on the board. And in the command phase, Ethan puts the Inspiring Presence once again on the Mournfang. And he casts the Maw, the only thing that's in range, on my Gyro Bomber. So Big Maw comes up and chews a chunk out of the Gyro Bomber, and he rolls double 6s. Now in games, in editions past, especially like 8th edition, the most recent one of Warhammer before Age of Sigmar, this would have been a total power, chance to get sucked into the warp, which I always hated. Everybody hated it. It was always that risk reward thing. But even so, really, if I ever played Vampire Counts, that really sucks. It could really ruin a game. One shot, one thing, just all of a sudden your whole game's done right there, which I am so glad is not the case anymore. One bad roll shouldn't be the end of the game right there. It should be a series of bad rolls. In any case, he gets this off. I don't have anybody in range to try and unbind it, but that would have been pretty hard to do anyway. And he plucks off 3 wounds. The Maw gets satiated just with the 3 wounds it took, so it didn't keep chewing up my Gyro Bomber, thankfully. And then he runs. He rolls like a 6, I think, for the run. So this giant just trudges almost halfway down the map already. He could be in range to get to me later in the next turn if I don't start shooting him up. He moves up the Stonehorn. Stonehorn's a little bit closer, a little bit slower than it used to be because it's got a couple of wounds on it. And then he moves the Thunder Tusk, which is again down below half. I think he's got 5 wounds left on this thing. And he moves it as far as he can, but I think he wanted to get to a point where he could still shoot with them. So he moves up his Mournfang, gets that reasonably within charge distance. I thought he might actually ignore the Gyro Bomber and try and go after like my cannons or something, but I think it was just too far. So he also ran up his Butcher, so the Butcher's still in cover, but now getting closer. The Ice Breath for the Thunder Tusk only does, thankfully, 1 wound. But that 1 wound, he rolls 1 out of the die 6. I was more than happy to take that. 1 casualty, took it for the team. Still above 20 to be able to get my multiple shots. His charge was really easy when it came to the Mournfang, but he, of course, smartly opted to go after the Gyro Bomber. But it does give me a little time before he gets to my artillery pieces to try and shoot him up a little more. Combat ensues. He folds in, and of course, it's not even a challenge. That Gyro Bomber goes down. And that's what I expected. It would have been nice if I had a fleet of them, but they weren't built. Turn 3 goes to the Ogres. I love the random turns. Sometimes it works in your favor, sometimes it doesn't. It can be fairly crushing though, especially after in the mid to late turns when you've made your maneuvers, you're ready to engage. But it can be pretty brutal. And in this case, I just needed to get the first turn, and I didn't. So he wanted to see if there was a line of sight on my Rune Lord to see if he can Arcane Blast him. And this really worked in my favor. Inadvertently, look, check here. He can't see through all that mound of flesh. All those Mournfang and their bodies are overlapping. You can't see even a sliver of the Butcher. Neither could he see me. I decided to check this out in 2 different exposures here, so you could see how the clarity. You just can't see the Butcher. He can't see the Rune Lord. That was just in my favor. But then again, of course, he still wanted to cast the Arcane Bolt, so he plucked off 2 of these Quarrelers. So the Quarrelers are getting close, if not already. They're below 20. His movement with the giant pushes him up, man, and he is ready to charge, and he is so close. That giant is even untouched. I am not. I needed to get first turn. That would have been good. I would have been able to shoot these things up. Would have changed how this turned out, absolutely. But now he's right up on me, which is awful. He moves up again. Actually, I think he tried to charge with the Thunder Tusk. I forget, but. I think he goes ahead. Yes, he actually moves the Thunder Tusk up slightly. He's able to run with the Stonehorn, and the reason why is the Stonehorn, if it can charge, I think it has to, but it can run, and then it can still charge. And this is brutal because if it gets anything close to it when it gets within charge range, he can dish out mortal wounds. It's pretty bad. And if you really want to be interested in seeing something obscene, check out the Beast Claw Avalanche. Lots of mortal wounds being dished by a lot of big models. In any case, moves up to Mournfang. He's right up within 3 inches, or at the 3-inch mark for where my Rune Lord is in the cannon. He could also get in on those Quarrelers if he needs to. These Mournfang, I thought I would have taken 1, maybe 2 of them off. There's all 3 of them. This is bad news. His Butcher moves up. I forget if he had to run or not. Doesn't matter, but he's there as well. So the Thunder Tusk goes ahead and shoots. I think he missed. I think he might have missed. Yeah, he went after my flame cannon, which is now well in range to start dishing out some serious damage. Did not hit it. I'm thrilled about that. The Mournfang goes ahead and shoots. I think they may have plucked off a wound or 2 on the Quarrelers. The charge fails on the Thunder Tusk. Yeah, the fact that it got slowed down because it's pretty horribly wounded just means it just didn't get close enough to do anything more, than it is, and that was great. But the Stonehorn is easily able to get in on and this is really, really, really awful, the Flame Cannon, because the Flame Cannon just didn't get an opportunity to go and start dishing out the mortal wounds it can dish. But it is what it is. We'll just have to see if it can survive. The Butcher did not run. It did try to charge after a regular move, but failed. But the Giant gets in there. Oh my God, Giants are scary when they get into close combat if they're unwounded. 3d6 for the number of attacks. They get a stomp. They get a kick or a headbutt. And they also can do something really funny, which I'll talk about in just a second. The Mournfang easily get in on the Rune Lord and the cannon, and then the Giant just picks up one of these guys and stuffs him in his bag, stuffs him in a sack. It's an automatic wound on the unit. It's automatic loss of 1 model. The way it works is that whatever the wound number of the model, it's the characteristics, not the current number. You can't whittle down a really powerful thing and all of a sudden when it's low enough, stuck them in your sack. I guess it's indicative of the fact that a 1 wound model is typically very small, and big things in the game are denoted by having more wounds. In any case, if you roll a die, and if you're able to double the number of wounds, then you can pick them up, stuff them in a sack. It's a casualty. These guys only have 1 wound, so we only need to roll a 2. He did. If it was like a 2-wound model, that would be a 4, and so on. In any case, he got him. This guy's going to be dinner for a future meal. And then he starts swinging with that big club, and wow. I think I lost, 6, 7 guys, maybe between all of his attacks. Not good. I'm way below the threshold now for for being able to shoot twice. So it's my turn to attack, and I fold in. I mean, I couldn't get everybody on one or the other, and I need to try and dish out wounds as wherever I could. So I tried to maintain coherency and put as many as I could on the Giant, and put everything else that I could get over to the Stonehorn on the Stonehorn. So we move to close combat. In close combat, I'm able to dish a couple of wounds. That's okay. Every little bit helps. And we're able to put another wound on the Stonehorn, which is good too. But the Stonehorn just takes a chunk out of the flame cannon, and that's the end of the flame cannon and the crew. The remaining attacks, he dishes onto some more of the Quarrelers, so say goodbye to a few more Quarrelers. And we get to the attacks with the cannon and the Rune Lord, who do nothing. And of course, 2 of the Mournfang destroy the cannon and their crew. And the last Mournfang is only able to do 2 wounds on the Rune Lord. That's good. With Battle Shock, thankfully, I only lost 2 more guys, but yeah, the ranks of the Dwarves are starting to get really thin here. Lost 2 War Machines and a whole bunch of guys. I need this turn. I get it. It may be too little too late, but let's take a look. So I throw down the +1 wound and random, still in range for the Rune Lord to be able to do that. So these guys can do a little bit more damage. I move the Dwarf Lord up so that if I needed to, I could charge either one of these guys. I mean, it'd have to be a little bit longer charge to get to the Stonehorn, but it really depends on the kind of wounds and where I'm going to need to be to try and finish one of these guys off. So I go ahead and dish with shooting, and I start putting some wounds on the Giant. I'm hoping maybe I can kill the Giant just with shooting alone, and then I can focus that on the others, everybody else on that Stonehorn. So I go ahead and try to shoot with the Grudge Thrower. There's still plenty of targets within minimum range. I dish, I think, was it 2 or 3 wounds to the Stonehorn. Again, you got to consider that this thing takes half of everything, and it's just very resilient because of that. So as far as the Quarrelers, they are now able to dish the giant down to 7 wounds, which is awesome. 7 wounds is below half, and he substantially reduces his capabilities. I've got the Stonehorn down to 7 wounds with all the shooting and with the hand-to-hand combat. This is a good chance. So I charge that and again, if I can, I've got 7 wounds on the giant. He's much easier to take out. I think I have other things that could do it. So I move the Lord on the Stonehorn. He can do some serious damage, and he's got plenty of attacks. His attacks do multiple wounds. There's a chance I could get enough wounds to do this, or if not, I can really cripple this guy. And I get him close. I get him to 10 wounds. Just a few more, I would have been able to put this guy out and then focus and concentrate on the middle. But yet he lives. So back to the giant, and the giant swings his club, still very effective at down 7 wounds, kills off with, between all of his attacks, 4 more of my Quarrelers, and just stomps on the rest of them. That's the end of all the Quarrelers on this side. There's only a handful left next to the Dwarf Lord, and the giant is down but not out. The Stonehorn starts fighting back, dishes a couple of wounds onto my Lord. Now he's down to 4 wounds out of 5. Not good. Dwarf Lord's ready to pop. The Mournfang focus all 3 of their troops. I can't believe I didn't even take one of these guys out. Onto the Rune Lord and eats him. So they're going to have a nice little feast. We get to turn 4. I so needed this turn. I needed to roll consecutive turns, but of course the Ogres get it. The giant just says, you know what, I've eaten enough. I've got a couple of snacks for dessert, and he runs off the board. He's able to easily do it. As does the Mournfang. They got good move. They did a run and were able to get a high enough number where they were able to get to the board edge. So does the Stonehorn. He does what's called a retreat. It doesn't matter. He doesn't need to shoot. All he needs to do is get off the board edge, which he does, and that is the victory. That is the end of the game. So, mission accomplished. The Ogres break through this paltry defenses, the outer defenses, maybe a scout group just defending this narrow pass. You can't have a large, force here at all times, but this token force was just not enough to slow these guys down. We'll see what happens in the next scenario. Hey guys, it was a lot of fun. I got to spend some quality time with my son playing a great game that we both like. Showed him a little bit about the tactics, a little bit of how to work on a scenario, how to work towards objectives, how to overcome some things that monkey wrenches that get thrown your way, things that try to you have to change up. Teach him a little bit about the wizards and the spell casting, which he got a little bit of experience doing. And of course, if you guys are enjoy this stuff, there's much more to come. I've got plenty more battle reports that I have to cut and release, but also I played a few games recently with some new players that I do demos and show a lot of people that have been recently getting into the game, how it works and whatnot. And just keep in mind, if you're keeping track of the channel, Gamer Grunts, check out the event counter if you're in the Northeast area, anywhere in the New York, New Jersey area, Pennsylvania, Connecticut as well. And if you're in the local area and you're looking for a game, feel free to send me a note, MC1 Gamer, anywhere in North Jersey or thereabouts. I'm, any place within reasonable commuting, I'm happy to go and meet up. As well as if you're looking to come to one of our Gamer Grunts events, drop me a line, let me know you're looking to come. You got to pay at those venue sites, so let them know before those slots fill up. And keep an eye out for all these other unlockings that I have and various videos, and as well as check out the PMP on the Warhammer YouTubers, because there's a lot of great painting stuff there, and I finally got one of my first completed units for 2016 up there in my Dryads. Thank you very much. Check me out on Twitter. If you're interested in donating to the channel, go ahead and do so with Patreon. I would appreciate it all. And have a great day, everybody.